Caught my cheating wife at a secret hotel. She was stunned when I handed her divorce papers right in the hotel lobby. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I'm writing on my phone, so apologies for any mistakes. This is a long and messy story, and I have nowhere else to share it. The silence in the kitchen wasn't empty. It was heavy, suffocating, pregnant with unspoken accusation. Just 10 minutes ago, my wife and I had announced we were expecting a boy, and the room had been filled with congratulatory cheers, fleeting warmth. But now, my sister Carly stood before me, her eyes gleaming with an unnatural intensity, her hand clamped around my arm, fingers digging in. "You're out of your mind," she hissed. My mind reeled. Had I misheard her? Was this a joke, a cruel jest? "Why would you say that to me?" I managed to ask, pulling my arm free, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. "I was meant to be a boy, Mom," she declared, stepping closer, her voice laced with a bitter, raw envy. "I've been dreaming about it since I was a little girl. The mother-son bond, Little League games, all of it." I didn't understand what my dreams, or my baby, had to do with her. And then the words tumbled out, each one a sharp, poisoned dart. Instead, I got stuck with a disgusting daughter who ruined my life. She said it like she was talking about a piece of furniture she regretted buying, not her own 14-year-old child. A wave of nausea washed over me, hot and sickening. "That's your child, Carly," I whispered, the words barely audible, but she wasn't listening. Her grip on my arm tightened again, her nails biting into my skin, and she looked at me with these crazy, unhinged eyes. "You have a husband. You can try again," she insisted, her gaze sweeping over my still flat stomach, a predatory glint in her eyes. "Don't you see, Enid? This is a miracle. I was meant to have your baby boy." I took her hand off of me, my own trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. "I'm not giving you my son just because you hate your child." Her teeth gritted, a faint hiss escaping her lips, and I could tell she was wondering why I wasn't bowing at her feet, why I wasn't grateful for her twisted proposition. "You don't even want to be a mom that badly." Her voice cracked, a raw, ugly sound. "I would cherish every second with him. But you didn't even cry when you found out you were pregnant." That's when Zach, my husband, appeared in the doorway, his tall frame suddenly filling the space, his presence a shield. From the sick, horrified look on his face, I could tell he'd heard what she was demanding of me. His face went hard, a granite mask of fury, and he stepped between us. "Get away from my wife." Carly didn't flinch. "Stay out of this. This is a family matter." "You're going to leave," he said, his voice low and steady, a dangerous calm, "and you're never going to speak to her again. Do you understand me?" She looked at him like he was an ant, then past him, directly at my stomach. A smile, slow and certain, spread across her face, a chilling, triumphant smirk. "You can say no all you want," she said. "Doesn't change what's coming." She turned and walked out with a confidence that made my blood run cold, like she already knew how this was going to end. Zach grabbed my hand before I could follow her out, his grip tight, reassuring. "We need to leave," he said, his voice urgent. "Right now." But I shook my head, the adrenaline still coursing through me. That's what she wants. She wants to blow everything up and make me look crazy. If we leave now, she wins. Zach looked at me like I was making a mistake, his jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. He trusted me, even in the face of this absurdity. We walked back into the living room, and I knew immediately that Carly had told a twisted version of what had just happened. She was curled into Mom on the couch, sobbing like someone had died, a theatrical performance honed by years of practice. Dad was standing by the window with his arms crossed, jaw tight, refusing to look at me, his usual escape. And Carly's daughter, Jordan, was in the corner by the bookshelf, pressed against the wall like she was trying to disappear, a spectral figure in her own home. The only sound was Carly's exaggerated crying. I wasn't going to let her control this narrative, to paint me as the villain in her warped drama. She just asked me to give her my baby. I said, my voice loud enough for everyone to hear, my words cutting through the false drama like a sharp knife. Those were her exact words. She cornered me in the kitchen, grabbed my arm, and told me I need to hand over my son when he's born. I waited for the shock, for the outrage, for someone to turn to Carly and demand to know what she was thinking. Mom looked up at me. Her face was calm, eerily serene, a mask of composure. "We know," she said. "She told us." "Okay," I said slowly, my mind reeling, struggling to keep up with this surreal conversation. And we think you should consider it." I laughed, a harsh, disbelieving sound, because there was no way I heard that right. But nobody else was laughing. Dad was still staring out the window, a silent, disapproving statue. Carly had stopped crying and was watching me through her fingers, a predatory glint in her eyes. Even Zach had gone still beside me, his presence a solid, reassuring weight. "I'm sorry," I said. "You think I should consider giving my baby away?" "Not giving him away?" Mom said like I was being dramatic, minimizing the horror with a dismissive wave of her hand. "Just letting Carly be more involved. Maybe even." She paused, choosing her words carefully, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Maybe even letting her take the lead on raising him. You could still see him. You'd still be his mother, but Carly would be his primary caregiver." "That's insane." "Is it?" Dad finally turned from the window, his voice calm, but there was an insidious edge underneath it. "You work constantly. You've said yourself you weren't even trying to get pregnant. You didn't even seem that excited when you found out." "I was excited," I said, my voice tight with frustration, with the injustice of their accusations. "I was in shock. There's a difference." "Carly has been wanting this for 14 years, Mom said, her tone saccharine, sickly sweet. "She's read every parenting book. She's taken classes. She would be home with him every single day while you're at the office." "I'm not quitting my job to prove I deserve my own child. See, that's the problem," Dad said, his voice cold, final, a judge delivering a verdict. "It's always about you. What you want, what you're willing to sacrifice. Have you even thought about what's best for the baby?" I felt like I was in an alternate universe, a distorted reality where logic had ceased to exist. These were my parents, the people who raised me, and they were standing in this living room telling me to hand my son over to my sister like he was a borrowed car. "What's best for the baby," I said slowly, each word deliberate, a heavy stone, "is being raised by his actual mother, not by someone who—" I stopped. My gaze fell upon Jordan, still frozen in the corner, a small, spectral figure. She was staring at the floor, but I could see her hands trembling slightly at her sides, a silent testament to the daily trauma she endured. "Not by someone who what?" Carly said, sitting up now, the tears gone, her voice sharp, challenging, a predator sensing weakness. "Go ahead, finish that sentence." "Not by someone who calls her own daughter disgusting." The room went dead silent, the air suddenly thick, suffocating. Jordan's head snapped up, her eyes meeting mine for just a second, and I saw something flash across her face, surprise, like she couldn't believe someone had actually said it out loud, that her unspoken truth had finally been given voice. "That's not—" Mom started, her calm facade finally cracking, a fissure appearing in her composure. She said it to my face. I cut her off, my voice ringing with righteous anger, with the power of unvarnished truth. "Just now in the kitchen. She called Jordan a disgusting daughter who ruined her life. Those were her exact words. And you're telling me to give her another child?" I looked at Jordan again. She was watching Carly now, waiting to see how she would spin it, how she would twist the narrative. I'd seen that look before on other people, the look of someone who's been gaslit so many times they've stopped expecting anyone to believe them, stopped trusting their own reality. This entire family interaction is a masterclass in narcissistic family dynamics. Carly's sense of entitlement, her ability to project blame onto her daughter, and her demand for my child all stem from a deeply disordered sense of self. The parents' willingness to enable Carly, even to the point of suggesting I give up my baby, demonstrates their own enmeshment and inability to establish healthy boundaries, prioritizing Carly's emotional needs and maintaining a superficial family peace over the well-being of their other children. Jordan, as the scapegoat, has been systematically invalidated, leading to her withdrawal and the look of someone who's been gaslit so many times they've stopped expecting anyone to believe them. "Carly," Dad said slowly, his voice hesitant, a flicker of uncertainty. "Is that true?" For a split second, I saw something change in his face, doubt, maybe even genuine concern. Like for once, he wasn't sure whose side to take, his loyalty briefly fractured. Carly saw it too. She burst into fresh tears, a performance honed by years of practice, a desperate attempt to regain control. "I was upset," she wailed. "You don't understand what it's been like for me. 14 years of doing this alone. 14 years of wishing things were different and watching everyone else get what I wanted." She grabbed Mom's arm, her voice laced with desperation. "I didn't mean it like that. Jordan knows I love her. Tell them, Jordan. Tell them I'm a good mother." Every head in the room turned to Jordan. She was 14 years old, and suddenly the entire weight of the room was on her slender shoulders, a cruel spotlight. I watched her face cycle through emotions, fear, exhaustion, something that looked like hope dying before it could fully form. "She's a good mother," Jordan said quietly, her voice flat, rehearsed, like she'd said it 1,000 times before. Mom relaxed. Dad's face smoothed over. That was all it took for the moment of doubt to disappear, for the family's equilibrium of denial to reassert itself. "See." Carly wiped her eyes, a triumphant glint returning. "Jordan understands. We have our difficult moments, but we love each other." I felt something twist in my stomach, a cold, sickening realization. You just made her lie for you right in front of all of us. She's not lying. She's scared of you. I looked at my parents, their faces now a wall of indifference, their eyes blank. "Can't you see that? She's standing in the corner shaking, and you're acting like everything's fine." "Families are complicated," Mom said, her voice dismissive, a well-worn excuse. "You'll understand when you're a mother." I understand right now. I understand that you're watching a child get manipulated in real time. And you don't care because it's easier to believe Carly than to admit something's wrong. "Don't talk about my daughter," Carly snapped, her voice regaining its edge, her composure returning. "Someone has to." I was shaking now, my own rage finally breaking through, a tremor that ran through my entire body. "You called her disgusting. You told me she ruined your life, and now you're using her as a prop to prove you're a good person. What kind of mother does that? The kind who's been doing it alone for 14 years. Carly was standing now, towering over me, her voice rising to a shriek. "While you got everything handed to you, the husband, the career, the baby boy. And what do I get? Nothing. That's enough," Dad said, his voice cold, final. "Enid, I think you and Zach should leave." Gladly. I grabbed my purse, the strap digging into my shoulder. "But I'm telling you right now, I'm not giving her my son. Not now. Not ever." Mom stood up, her face tight with a menacing promise. "If you walk out that door, there will be consequences." "What consequences?" "We have rights as grandparents. If we decide that baby isn't being properly cared for, are you threatening us?" Zach finally spoke, his voice quiet but hard, resonating with controlled fury. "Because that's what it sounds like." "We're expressing concern," Dad said, his voice unwavering. "Concern?" Zach stepped forward, his body shielding me, his jaw clenched. "Your daughter just asked for our baby. Your other daughter made a child lie to protect her. And you're concerned about us?" Nobody answered. Carly was staring at me with that same cold smile from the kitchen, like this was all going exactly how she wanted, a terrifying confirmation of her twisted intentions. "We're done," I said, my voice heavy with finality. I looked at Jordan one more time. She was watching me with this look I couldn't forget, like she'd been drowning for years and someone had finally noticed, a flicker of desperate hope in her eyes. "I'm sorry," I said to her, a promise hanging in the air. Then I grabbed Zach's hand, and we walked out the door, leaving behind the suffocating tension, the unspoken threats, the chilling betrayal, the wreckage of what I once called family. I can't even wrap my head around what just happened. My own mother looked me in the eye and asked if giving away my baby would really be that bad. My father wouldn't even look at me, and Carly just sat there crying like she was the one being attacked. I defended her daughter, and somehow I'm the villain. I'm done being the reasonable one. Done explaining myself to people who already made up their minds. Carly wanted a war. She's about to find out I don't lose. I thought I was ready for whatever she threw at me. Then I came home from my doctor's appointment and found the front door open. A cold dread settled in my stomach, a premonition of disaster. I ran inside and stopped dead. Carly was straddling Zach on the couch, her hands pressed against his chest, her face inches from his, her eyes wide, unblinking. He was struggling underneath her, his face contorted in a desperate attempt to push her away, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "You could fix everything right now," she was saying, her voice a low, insistent murmur, a hypnotic drone. "Just say yes." I didn't hesitate. A primal surge of protective fury coursed through me, hot and stinging. I grabbed a fistful of her hair and yanked her backward as hard as I could. It was like I had been wanting to do that for years, to pull her away from everything she touched, everything she tried to poison. She flew off of him and hit the floor, landing with a soft thud. For a second, she just lay there gasping, the wind knocked out of her. Then she looked up at me, her eyes blazing with an unholy fire. "You bitch." She scrambled to her feet and came at me, but Zach was already up, shoving her back, his body a shield between us. "He wanted it," she screamed, clawing at the air, trying to get past him, her voice shrill with frustrated desire. He was going to say yes. I saw it in his face. "Get out," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "Get out of my house right now." "Or what? You'll call the police?" She laughed, a sharp, unhinged sound that sent shivers down my spine. "And tell them what? That your sister came over to talk? That she sat too close to your husband? Who do you think they're going to believe? The pregnant woman who cuts off her whole family? Or the poor grieving widow just trying to be part of her nephew's life?" "They'll believe the security camera," I said. Carly froze. "What? The one in the living room? The one that's been recording since you forced your way in?" Her face went white, a sudden, stark realization of the trap she'd sprung herself into. I was bluffing. We didn't have a camera, but she didn't know that. "You're lying." "Try me." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then something changed in Carly's face. The desperation melted away, and something colder, more calculating, took its place. "Fine," she said, her voice too calm now, too steady, a chilling composure. "You want to play it this way? We can play it this way." She straightened her shirt and smoothed down her hair, her movements deliberate, almost defiant. "But that baby is mine, Enid. And one way or another, I'm going to get what I deserve." She walked toward the door, then stopped, turned back. "You can't watch them forever." Then she was gone, leaving behind the heavy scent of her perfume and a trail of unspoken threats. Zach sank onto the couch and put his head in his hands. He was shaking, his body trembling uncontrollably. I sat down next to him and put my hand on his back. The adrenaline was starting to fade, and I could feel my own hands trembling now. I had just walked in on my sister trying to assault my husband. That sentence didn't even make sense in my head. It sounded like something from a crime documentary, not my actual life. "What happened here?" I carefully asked, making sure he knew I wasn't accusing him of anything, my voice soft, gentle. He didn't answer right away. He just sat there with his head in his hands, breathing hard like he'd just run a marathon, his chest heaving. I rubbed small circles on his back and waited. I wasn't going to push him. "She knocked on the door," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I looked through the window and saw it was her. I wasn't going to open it, but she kept knocking, kept calling my name. Said she just wanted to apologize, that she felt terrible about dinner and wanted to make things right. He took a shaky breath. I opened the door to tell her to leave. That's it. Just to tell her to go away, but she pushed past me before I could stop her. Enid. She started talking about how you don't understand how hormones make pregnant women irrational. How I seemed like a reasonable person, and maybe I could help her. He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes, filled with a raw, exposed vulnerability. He looked so small in that moment. I hated Carly for making him look like this. I kept telling her to get out. I kept moving toward my phone to call you, but every time I moved, she moved with me, cutting me off, getting closer. His voice cracked. And then she started talking about how I gave you a boy, how that meant I had something special, strong genes, and how it would be such a waste to only use them once. He stopped talking and stared at the floor. His hands were clasped together so tight his knuckles had gone white. She touched my arm. I pulled away. She grabbed my shirt. I tried to push her off, but she just kept coming. She shoved me onto the couch, and before I could get up, she was on top of me. He stopped, swallowed hard, his throat tight with unspoken words. I couldn't get her off. I was trying not to hurt her because she's your sister, and I didn't know what to do. And she just kept saying she wanted me to get her pregnant. His voice was that I could give her a boy like I gave you. No one would have to know. He couldn't look at me. He was staring at the carpet like he was ashamed, like any of this was his fault. I pulled him into me and held him as tight as I could. It's not your fault, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Do you hear me? None of this is your fault. I should have never opened the door. His voice broke, a raw, painful sound. I let her in and she, hey. I pulled back and took his face in my hands, making him look at me. His eyes were wet. You did nothing wrong. She forced her way in. She wouldn't leave. She attacked you. That's on her, not you. Do you understand me? He didn't say anything. He just looked at me with this expression that made my heart shatter. Zach, I need you to hear me. This is not your fault. I feel like I should have been able to stop her. She caught you off guard. She manipulated her way in. That's what she does. That's what she's always done. I wiped a tear from his cheek with my thumb. You are not responsible for what she did to you. He buried his face in my shoulder, and I felt him shaking against me. My husband, the strongest person I knew, was broken down by my own sister. I held him and let him fall apart because that's all I could do. We sat like that for a long time. I don't know how long. I just held him and let him cry and tried to make sense of what had just happened. My sister had tried to assault my husband to get herself pregnant. I kept turning that sentence over in my head, trying to make it fit into reality. Carly had always been difficult, entitled, dramatic, yes, but this was something else entirely. This was a line I never thought she would cross. And if she would do this, what else would she do? The thought hit me like ice water. I was pregnant with a baby of her dreams, and she had just proven she would do anything to get what she wanted. We need to do something, I said quietly, my voice grim. We can't just let this go. Zach pulled back and wiped his face, his eyes red. You heard her. She's already figured out what she's going to say. Grieving widow, crazy pregnant sister. Who are they going to believe? So, what do we do? I thought about my parents. How they'd sided with Carly at dinner. How they'd threatened me with grandparent rights. If I told them what happened, they'd find a way to make it my fault. They'd say Zach misunderstood. They'd say Carly was just emotional. They'd twist it around until I was the villain again. We were on our own. No family, no support, just us against whatever Carly was going to do next. I don't know, I admitted, my voice a whisper of despair. But we have to be ready, because she's not going to stop. Zach nodded slowly. He still looked shaken, but something harder was settling into his face, a steel resolve. If she comes back here, I'm calling the police. I don't care what she says. I don't care who believes what. She's not stepping foot in this house again. Agreed. We sat there in the quiet, holding hands, trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so fast. I kept thinking about the look on Carly's face when she left, that cold certainty, like she already knew how this was going to end. My sister had tried to assault my husband to get herself pregnant. I didn't know how to process that. I didn't know if I ever would. We just held each other and tried to breathe. An hour later, the doorbell rang again, its cheerful chime a jarring contrast to the tension that still hung heavy in the air. Zach went stiff beside me. If that's her, I'll check. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't Carly. It was Jordan. I opened the door, and she was standing there hugging herself, trembling so hard her teeth were chattering. Her eyes were red and swollen, and there was a bruise across her left cheek, dark purple against her pale skin. Jordan, what happened? She tried to speak, but all that came out was this tiny, broken sound, a muffled sob. Come inside, I said, pulling her in. You're safe now. Come inside. Zach wiped his face quickly and got her water while I sat her on the couch. She couldn't stop shaking. Every few seconds, she'd flinch like she was bracing for a blow that wasn't coming, her body wired for impact. Take your time, Zach said softly, handing her the glass. His hands were still trembling from what had happened, but he pushed it aside, his focus now entirely on her. You're okay now. Jordan took a shaky breath. She came home angry. I heard the car, the way she slammed the door. I went to my room, but she came and found me. What did she do? Jordan's eyes went distant, fixed on a horrifying memory. She was screaming before she even got up the stairs, saying it was my fault, that everything wrong in her life was because of me. She sniffled hard. She grabbed my hair and dragged me into the hallway. I tried to cover my face, but she just kept hitting me. She touched her bruise and winced, a raw, physical pain. She said if I had just been a boy, none of this would be happening. She said she spent 14 years looking at me and feeling sick. She said my dad would still be alive if I hadn't disappointed him so much that he didn't want to live anymore. Jordan. Her voice went flat, empty. When I was on the floor, she kicked me in the stomach and called me worthless. And then she grabbed my arm and threw me out the front door and told me if she ever saw my face again, she'd make me regret it. She looked up at me with hollow eyes, utterly defeated. I didn't know where else to go. I pulled her into a hug. She was so thin, so small, her body trembling against mine. You're staying here, I said. With us. You're not going back to her. She'll come looking for me. Let her come. Zach sat down on the other side of Jordan and put his hand on her shoulder. She flinched at first, then relaxed, leaning into his touch. You're safe, he said. She's not going to hurt you again. Jordan looked between us. I could tell she seemed confused, hopeful, terrified it wasn't real. She started crying then. Not loud, just these quiet, exhausted tears that had been held back for too long. I held her and let her cry, her small body racked with sobs. This whole day has been a mess. I walked into my own house and found my sister on top of my husband. She looked me dead in the face and said he wanted it. Then she went home and beat her 14-year-old daughter until she ran away. And somehow my parents still think I'm the problem. I don't even have words for this. What kind of person does these things? I'm not just protecting my baby anymore. I'm protecting Jordan, too. Wait until you hear what Jordan told me. Carly just lost the only person she had left. She doesn't even know it yet. Jordan told me everything that night. After she stopped crying, after Zach made her something to eat, a plate of warm, comforting food, after the shaking finally stopped, she started talking. And once she started, she couldn't stop. You know, she only named me Jordan so she could pretend I was a boy, she said quietly, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. We were sitting on the couch together. Zach was in the chair across from us, his gaze unwavering. I looked at her. What do you mean? When she was pregnant with me, she was so sure I was going to be a boy. She had the nursery ready, blue walls, baseball posters, the whole thing. Jordan pulled her knees up to her chest, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. And then I came out wrong. You didn't come out wrong, Zach said gently, his voice soft. You came out a girl. There's nothing wrong with that. Try telling her that. Jordan almost smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes, a shadow of pain still lingering. She kept the name anyway. Told everyone it was unisex, but I know the real reason, so she could call me by a boy's name and pretend at least a little bit that she got what she wanted. I reached over and put my hand on her arm. How long have you known this? Forever. She never let me forget it. Jordan's voice was flat, resigned. That's why she used to shave my head. I remembered that. Everyone would tell Carly to let Jordan's hair grow, that she would look so beautiful with long hair. But Carly always refused. Always had the same excuse. Every few weeks when my hair started to grow out, she'd sit me down in the bathroom and shave it all off. Because it was easier to manage, I finished for her, the old excuse ringing hollow. Yeah. Jordan looked down at her hands, picking at a loose thread on the couch cushion. She didn't want me to look like a girl. Zach leaned forward, his face grim. How long did that go on? Jordan touched her hair, shoulder length now, tangled and messy from running. Until I was 11. That's when I started fighting back. Really fighting, screaming, locking myself in my room. She couldn't hold me down anymore, so she stopped. She let out a bitter laugh. This is the longest it's ever been. 14 years old, and I'm finally allowed to have hair past my ears. Lucky me. The sarcasm in her voice was sharp, but I could hear the deep, raw pain underneath it. And no one could help, no matter what. My teacher saw the bruises, but she always had an excuse. I fell. I was playing rough. I was a difficult child. And everyone believed her because she's so good at being the victim. She looked at me, her eyes pleading for understanding. You saw it at dinner. The way she turned it around on you. I saw it. I nodded, my heart aching for her. I just didn't understand how deep it went. I thought about all the family gatherings over the years. All the times I'd seen Jordan sitting quietly in the corner, a silent observer. All the times I'd noticed something seemed off but told myself it wasn't my business, that I shouldn't interfere. A wave of guilt washed over me. I should have said something. I should have done something. It goes all the way down. Jordan picked at a thread on the couch cushion. She only let me wear boys' clothes. Jeans, t-shirts, nothing with flowers or pink or anything girly. When I started middle school, teachers asked questions, so she let me wear some girl stuff to school. But at home, it was back to the same thing. Zach shook his head, his jaw tight. And let me guess, she used that grieving widow raising a difficult daughter all by herself excuse that she loves so much when questions start getting heavy. Jordan laughed bitterly. Yeah, everyone constantly feels sorry for her. That's her whole thing. She makes people feel sorry for her, and then she gets whatever she wants. She stopped suddenly, looked down at her hands, her shoulders hunching. I shouldn't be telling you all this. She's still my mom. I know that sounds stupid, but it doesn't sound stupid, I said softly, reaching out to touch her arm. She's your mom. Of course, you have complicated feelings. But Jordan, what she's done to you isn't okay. None of it is okay. Jordan was quiet for a moment. Do you actually believe me? The question was so small, so fragile, like she was bracing herself for me to say no. Of course, I believe you. Because no one ever does. I've tried telling people before, and they always, I believe you, I said again, firmer this time, my voice unwavering. Every word. Zach moved from the chair to sit on Jordan's other side. She flinched at first, but didn't pull away. I believe you too, he said quietly, his voice filled with a profound empathy. And I know what she's capable of. She hurt me today. What she did to me. He paused, his jaw tightening, reliving the trauma. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. Jordan looked at him with something like recognition, like she finally had someone who understood, someone who shared her burden. She used to tell me things when I was little. Jordan continued, her voice steadier now, gaining strength. Things I believed because she was my mom and I didn't know any better. Like what? Zach asked, his voice gentle. Jordan was quiet for a moment. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. She tried again. That I was supposed to be a boy. I ruined her life by being born wrong. She convinced me that my dad died because he was so disappointed in me. He didn't want to live anymore. Jordan. I grabbed her hand, squeezing it tight. That's not true. None of that is true. I know now. She squeezed my hand back. But when you're 6 years old and your mom tells you your dad killed himself because of you, you believe it. You believe it for a long time. Her voice cracked on the last word, and she had to stop. She pressed her hands against her eyes and took a shaky breath. Take your time, I said softly. You don't have to tell us everything tonight. No, I want to. I need to. She dropped her hands and looked at me with wet eyes, raw and vulnerable. I've been holding this in for so long. I just need someone to finally know. The room went quiet. Zach reached over and put his hand on Jordan's shoulder. She looked surprised, but she didn't pull away. You can let it all out, Zach softly said. Cry, scream, talk to your heart's content. We're here for you. For once, Jordan felt comforted, so she continued. There was this one time. I was 9. I'd saved up my allowance and bought a dress from a thrift store, yellow, with little flowers on it. I hid it in the back of my closet and only wore it when she wasn't home. She paused, her voice laced with a bitter memory. She found it, dragged me into the living room, and made me watch while she cut it into pieces with scissors. She said if she ever caught me wearing girl clothes again, she'd make sure I regretted it. Jordan's hands balled into fists, her knuckles white. I was 9. What kind of person does that to a 9-year-old over a dress? I could end her, I said, the words coming out before I could stop them, a primal roar of protective fury. I'm sorry. I know she's your mom, but I could actually end her for doing that to you. Jordan stared at me, her eyes wide. I don't think anyone had ever been angry on her behalf before, a new, unsettling sensation. Zach put his hand on her shoulder, a silent gesture of solidarity. And when I was 10, I painted my nails just clear polish. You could barely even see it. Jordan's voice was shaking now, but it wasn't sadness anymore. It was anger, raw and fierce. She locked me outside in November. All night. I was in my pajamas, and I thought I was going to die. And the next morning, she let me back in and acted like nothing happened, as if I really deserved to be punished like that. She stood up suddenly and started pacing, her movements agitated. 14 years. 14 years of this, and everyone just looked the other way. Teachers, grandma and grandpa, everyone. She was shaking with rage now, her body trembling. I spent my whole life thinking I just had to survive until I could leave. But you know what? I'm done being quiet. She's always been the problem, and everyone just let her get away with it. I wiped my eyes. I hadn't even realized I was crying. I stood up and pulled her into a hug. She resisted for a second, still vibrating with anger, then collapsed into me, her small body racked with sobs. We stood there for a long moment. I could feel her shaking against me, all that rage slowly draining out of her until there was nothing left but exhaustion, a profound weariness. You're not going to send me back, are you? Her voice was muffled against my shoulder, small, scared, fragile. Never. Promise. I promise. You're staying here with us for as long as you want. She held on tighter. There's something else, Jordan said into my shoulder. Something you need to know about your baby. I pulled back, my heart pounding. What about him? When you announced you were having a boy, she went quiet. You probably noticed. Everyone else was celebrating, but she just sat there staring at you. I nodded. I remembered. That chilling, predatory calm. That night, she came into my room. She wasn't angry. That was the scary part.
She was always angry.
But this time, she was calm, almost happy. Jordan's jaw tightened. She said, "That's my second chance. That baby is going to fix everything." What does that mean? Zach jolted up at that, his eyes wide with a dawning horror. She's been planning this for months. She has a nursery set up in the spare room. Blue walls, a crib, clothes, toys, everything. Jordan looked between us, her eyes filled with a chilling certainty. She has a name picked out. She talks about him like he's already hers. I felt cold all over, an icy grip on my heart. She's not going to stop, Jordan said, her voice a flat, dead pronouncement. She's never going to stop. She's been waiting her whole life for a boy, and now she thinks she's finally going to get one. She doesn't care what she has to do. I thought about Carly on top of my husband. I thought about Jordan's bruise, the years of abuse, the nursery waiting for my son. She's not getting him, I said, my voice firm, resolute. She's not getting you either. Jordan looked at me. Her eyes were red and swollen. She looked exhausted, wrung out like she'd just run a marathon. She always wins, Jordan declared, a lifetime of defeat in her voice. Not this time. I shook my head. Jordan didn't say anything. She just leaned into me and closed her eyes, seeking solace. Zach came over and put his arms around both of us. We stood there in the quiet, the three of us holding each other up. For the first time in her life, Jordan wasn't alone.
And neither were we.
Jordan stayed over and slept in our guest room. I sat on the bed next to Zach, wondering how we were going to keep our baby safe from my crazy sister. He was coming any day now, but I'm not scared of her anymore. I'm angry. Angry for Jordan, for Zach, for myself. Let me tell you what happened just days after I gave birth. You're not going to believe this. Finally, my baby boy was born. He was healthy and perfect. I held him in my arms, and for a moment, I forgot about everything else. I just looked at my son and felt something I never felt before. Like I would do anything to protect him. Anything. We came home from the hospital 2 days after that. Jordan was still staying with us. She helped with the baby while Zach and I tried to figure out how to function on no sleep. Those first few days were a blur of feedings and diaper changes and exhaustion, so deep it felt like drowning. And on top of that, I was on guard all the time. I kept waiting for Carly to show up, to call, to do something. But there was nothing. No contact from her. No contact from my parents. Just silence. Part of me wanted to believe it was over, that she'd finally given up. But Jordan's words kept echoing in my head. She's not going to stop. She's never going to stop. She's been waiting her whole life for a boy. By the 5th night home, I was so tired, I could barely see straight. Zach was the same. Even Jordan looked exhausted from helping us around the clock. That night, we all went to bed early. My baby was in his nursery down the hall. I had the monitor on my nightstand, volume all the way up. I remember thinking I should stay awake. I should watch. But my body wouldn't cooperate. I was asleep before my head hit the pillow. I don't know how long I was out before Jordan was shaking me awake. Enid. Her voice was urgent, scared, a sharp whisper in the dark. Enid, wake up. I opened my eyes, and the room was dark. Jordan was standing over me, her face pale, a spectral figure in the gloom. What's wrong? I asked, still half asleep, my mind sluggish. I heard something. A door? I think someone's in the house. Zach was already sitting up beside me, his body tensed, his senses on high alert. What? I heard the front door, Jordan said, her voice trembling. I'm sure of it. We all went quiet, listening, our hearts hammering in our chests. And then we heard it, the baby crying, then stopping. Then the sound of footsteps moving fast. Then the front door closing. I was out of bed before I knew I was moving. I ran down the hall to the nursery and threw open the door. The crib was empty. My son was gone. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just stood there staring at the empty space where my baby was supposed to be. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Then Zach was rushing past me, running for the front door. Call 911, he yelled over his shoulder. I tried to follow, but my body wouldn't cooperate. I'd given birth 5 days ago. Everything still hurt. I was slow and clumsy, and by the time I got to the hallway, Jordan was there grabbing my arm, helping me move. Give me your phone, I said. She handed it over, and I dialed 911 as we moved toward the front door. 911, what's your emergency? My sister took my baby. My voice was shaking so bad I could barely get the words out. She broke into my house and took my baby. She's in front of my house right now. Please hurry. I gave them the address and hung up. We made it outside and I saw them. Carly was halfway down the driveway, my son in her arms. She was moving fast, almost running, clutching him against her chest, and she was talking to him. I could hear his desperate crying and her voice, eerily calm, carrying in the night air. It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. Mommy's got you now. Everything's going to be okay. We're going home. Something inside me snapped. That was my son. She was calling herself his mother. Zach caught up to her first. He grabbed her arm and spun her around. Give me my son. Carly's face was wild. Her eyes were huge and darting everywhere, desperate. And she looked like she hadn't slept in days, a haunted, ravaged look.
He's not yours, she said.
He was never yours. He's mine. He's always been mine. Give him to me right now. No. She pulled away from him, clutching the baby tighter. He started screaming, this high-pitched wail that cut through the night, a sound of pure terror.
You don't understand.
None of you understand. I've been waiting my whole life for him. He's my second chance. He's going to fix everything. Zach grabbed her arm again. Harder this time. Let go of my son. He's not your son. Carly tried to twist away, but Zach held on. They were struggling now, both of them pulling, the baby screaming between them, both trying to be so careful not to hurt him. I finally reached them. Jordan was right behind me, still holding my arm, keeping me upright. Every step hurt, a searing pain, but I didn't care. I would crawl if I had to. Carly, stop. I screamed, my voice raw. Give him back. Carly looked at me, and something in her face shifted. The desperation melted into pure hatred, a venomous glare. You, she spat. You don't deserve him. You never wanted him. You can't take care of him like I can. I've been preparing for him. I have a nursery. I have a name. I have everything ready. And you think you can just keep him for me? I won't let you. He's my son. He's my second chance. She was screaming now, spit flying from her mouth. Do you know what it's been like? 14 years of looking at her. She jerked her head toward Jordan, a cruel, dismissive gesture, and being reminded every single day of what I didn't get. 14 years of watching everyone else have what I deserved. And then you, my own sister, you get pregnant by accident, and it's a boy and you don't even appreciate it. I lunged for her. I didn't think about it. I just moved. I grabbed at the baby, trying to pull him from her arms. She held on tight, yanking him back, and for a horrible moment, we were both pulling on him, my son screaming between us. Let go. Carly shrieked. He's mine. Jordan jumped in. She grabbed Carly's arm and tried to pry it off the baby. Let him go. This is crazy. Just let him go. Carly's head snapped toward Jordan, and her face twisted into something ugly, truly monstrous. She let go of me with one hand and slapped Jordan across the face hard. The sound cracked through the air, sharp and sickening. You, Carly hissed. This is all your fault. If you had just been what I needed. If you had just been a boy. 14 years of disappointment. 14 years of looking at you and feeling sick. And now you're trying to take this from me, too. Jordan didn't back down. She grabbed Carly's arm again, harder this time. I'm not letting you do this. Get off me. Carly tried to shake her loose, but Jordan held on. And in that moment of distraction, Zach moved. He wrapped both arms around the baby and pulled. Carly screamed as the baby was ripped from her grip. Zach stumbled backward, clutching our son against his chest, and then he was handing him to me, pressing him into my arms. I was holding my baby. I was holding him. He was safe. He was here. He was mine. Carly lunged for us, but Zach stepped in front, blocking her path. She tried to get around him, clawing at the air, screaming things that didn't even make sense anymore. He's mine.
You can't do this.
He's supposed to fix everything. Give him back. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Carly heard them, too. For a second, something like panic flashed across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold certainty I'd seen before, that chilling composure. This isn't over, she said. I'll get him back. I'll find a way. You can't watch him forever. You can't. The police cars pulled up, lights flashing red and blue across the front yard. 2 officers got out and started toward us. Carly saw them first. She straightened up, wiped her face, and something shifted in her expression. The crazy melted away, and suddenly, she looked like a scared, concerned mother, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. Officers, thank God you're here. She pointed at me. That's her. She broke into my house, and she's trying to take my baby. I was shocked and offended all at once. What? She's been threatening me for months, Carly continued, her voice shaking with fake tears, a masterful performance. She's obsessed with my son. She thinks he belongs to her. I don't know what's wrong with her, but please help me get my baby back. The officers looked at her, then at me. I was standing there in my pajamas, hair a mess, still bleeding from giving birth 5 days ago, holding a screaming newborn. That's not true, I said, my voice hoarse. She's lying. This is my baby. She broke into my house. She's delusional, Carly said, her voice sharp. Ask anyone. She's been stalking me. She's been harassing me. My whole family can tell you. The worst part about that was that our parents would somehow find a way to prove her right, and my life would be ruined forever. One of the officers held up his hand. Okay, everyone calm down. Ma'am, he looked at Carly. You're saying this is your child?
Yes.
His name is Michael. He's 5 days old. My blood ran cold. She knew how old he was. She'd been watching us. His name is not Michael, I said. His name is Theo. And I gave birth to him. You can check the records. She's lying. Carly screamed, the mask slipping for just a second. Why would I lie about my own baby? The officer looked between us. Do either of you have identification? I do. Zach stepped forward, his voice firm, resolute. I'm the father. I have my ID, and I have pictures from the hospital. My wife gave birth 5 days ago. This woman, he pointed at Carly, is her sister. She's been harassing us for months, trying to take our baby. That's not true. Carly was crying now. Real tears or fake ones. I couldn't tell anymore. He's not the father. He's lying. They're all lying. The other officer was looking at Jordan, at the angry red mark on her face. What happened to you? Jordan's voice was steady, clear, unwavering. She hit me. Just now when I tried to stop her from taking the baby. She's my daughter, Carly said quickly. She's troubled. She makes things up. She's been in therapy for years. You can ask anyone. I'm not making anything up. Jordan's voice cut through the night, a sharp, undeniable truth. She broke into their house with a key she's had since before they changed the locks. She went into the nursery and took the baby out of his crib. I heard her. I woke them up. And when I tried to stop her, she hit me, just like she's been hitting me my whole life. Jordan, stop it. Carly hissed, her face contorted. Tell them the truth. I am telling them the truth. For the first time in 14 years, I'm telling the truth. The officers exchanged a look. One of them spoke into his radio, confirming our address, asking for backup. The other one turned to Carly. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step away from the baby. No, you don't understand.
He's mine.
Ma'am, I've been waiting my whole life for him. The mask was gone now. Completely gone. Her face was a raw, exposed wound of desperation. Do you know what it's like to want something so badly and watch everyone else get it? She doesn't even want him. She didn't even cry when she found out she was pregnant. But I would be a good mother. I would be the best mother. He's supposed to fix everything. She lunged toward me, and the officers grabbed her. She fought. She kicked and scratched and screamed, calling me every name she could think of, telling the officers they were making a mistake, that the baby belonged to her, that she'd been waiting her whole life for him, that I stole him, that everyone was lying, that Jordan was a troubled child who made up stories. They had to force her arms behind her back, had to put her in handcuffs. She was still screaming when they put her in the back of the police car. Still screaming as they closed the door. I watched the car pull away, lights still flashing, My son pressed against my chest, and I felt him breathing. It was over. Carly was charged with breaking and entering, attempted kidnapping, and assault. The prosecutor added child abuse charges after Jordan took the stand and told her story, her voice strong and unwavering. This escalation from emotional abuse to physical violence and attempted kidnapping highlights the severe and often unpredictable nature of narcissistic rage and entitlement. Carly's belief that she is owed a second chance baby, coupled with her history of abusing Jordan for not conforming to her desires, showcases a profound lack of empathy and a willingness to violate any boundary to fulfill her own needs. The parents' enabling behavior further illustrates the family scapegoat dynamic, where Jordan's abuse is minimized or rationalized to maintain the family's preferred narrative and avoid confronting Carly's disturbing pathology. My parents tried to defend Carly at first, tried to say she was confused, that she needed help, not prison. But when Jordan took the stand and told the court about the head shaving and the yellow dress and the night she spent locked outside in November and every other thing Carly had done to her for 14 years, they went quiet. They didn't testify on Carly's behalf. They didn't testify at all. Carly was sentenced to 20 years.